All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people, just like you and just like me. So, there was this article that came out a little while back, and I thought it was quite interesting. 6 reasons why old music is endangering the music of today and the future. It's endangering. First of all, what's really endangering the music of today and the future is the music of today and the future, not the old music. So just a little correction there. They write this article, or at least the byline here, what gets you really going and thinking to yourself, old music is a predator, it's coming to get you. No, old music is just good. It was made in a completely different way, and people are starting to notice that. Now, I do think they make some good points in this, and that's why I wanted to cover this in the video. So a couple of weeks back, a company that monitors music consumption tallied up the numbers, and apparently 70% of music that gets streamed or purchased or listened to on the radio, 70% of that music is considered old. Okay. Now, the author says, frankly, this isn't really a surprise to me. And what's interesting is rather than take a real apologetic stance and say, oh, people are just, they don't understand today's music. And there are a lot of older people, my age, older, maybe a little bit younger, who are of the, of the opinion that all of today's music is horrible. I would add a little bit of a caveat to that and say that the music that you're hearing on the radio is horrible. There is music available that isn't on the radio, that could be on the radio, that should be on the radio, but again, isn't on there. And there are a number of reasons why that is. Their first bullet point here is that old music is just better. Old music is just better. Now, every generation believes the music of their youth is the greatest ever made, but what we've seen happen is basically a holding pattern, and I can illustrate that for you. When I was growing up, the oldies station played music from the 50s and early 60s. When I got a little bit older, that station played music mostly from the 60s and early 70s and maybe a few 50s thrown in. All right. The format progressed. In other words, the years considered to be oldies, right, did advance a little bit as the years went by, but they've come to a complete halt. You've got the 80s. People don't consider the 80s oldies. I think people who grew up through the 80s resent that term, number one. And I'm sure they focus tested and said, don't call it oldies. They grew up with their parents who listened to oldies, and they don't want to be branded that way. I think there's some truth in that. The problem is the 80s stuff still gets thrown in to the formats where they do the hits of yesterday and today. And it's noise pollution when a song comes on that's new and is put right next to a great song from the 1980s. It's criminal. And they try to mix these formats and think that, well, we don't want to admit that we want to just play old stuff, but we'd be better off if we did. But maybe they're getting a kickback from one of these record labels to play a song or two. Although the labels really don't operate that way anymore. They're trolling YouTube and stuff, and I'll get to that point because it's in the article. They make this really good point. FM radio was at its peak, especially in the 1970s. And you tuned in because of the DJ. The DJ was free to spin whatever he or she liked. Today, we're all about our little groups, and even worse, algorithms. So if you like a certain kind of music, the algorithm is going to keep feeding you that kind of music. The good news is if you're into older music, the algorithm can be your friend. Case in point, a band I hadn't heard in a long time popped up in the algorithm one day, and I said to myself, holy crap, Batman, that's something I want to listen to. So it was just kind of cool because I had forgotten all about that band. but because I had listened to something else, they had suggested I ought to listen to this. It's creepy, but it works. When it works really good, because I've heard things that I hadn't heard in a long time. I also hear things that get uploaded that I missed the first time around. For fans of the whole West Coast genre of music, like the, Michael McDonald, Christopher Cross, Doobie Brothers, that kind of stuff, that era, Toto, Steely Dan, some people call it yacht rock, right? So if you're a fan of yacht rock, there are all these bands and albums that flew under the radar. And as that whole movement grows, they're finding more and more stuff that we all missed the first time around. And I got to tell you, some of it's really good if you like that style of music. So the algorithm has its pluses and minuses, but if you like crap, it will feed you more crap. So that's the point they're trying to make here. They go on to say, number 2 bullet point, today's songwriting is dull. This guy who's known as Little Nas X actually composed a song called Old Town Road over some beats and chords he bought online from a Dutch guy for $35. So, I think of the Eagles documentary where Glenn Fry is talking about living above Jackson Browne in the same house. Jackson Browne was in the basement, basically, and he's above him. And he's listening to Jackson Browne play his piano. He takes a break, makes some tea. Here's the teapot go off. And then he plays some more. I mean, this is a guy who is absolutely into honing his craft in writing a great song, both lyrics and music, and being a trained musician, knowing how to do both of those things. Is that era over? People talk about the Singer Songwriter Era. That was an amazing era that started really in the 1960s and peaked right around 1980 or so. But we're probably not going to ever have a period like that again, because somebody's always trying to take a shortcut. And this Little Nas X dude, who a rather controversial figure, in case you don't know who he is, $35, and he's got a big hit song on his hands, and all he's got to do is rap some lyrics over it. It says, in fact, if you're an aspiring mainstream songwriter who wants to break into the industry, you will be doing top lines 95% of the time. The top line is where you sing over, put lines over the top of the song, hence the top line name. So you're basically, writing songs to a karaoke, an unknown karaoke. That's what this is. So technology has made songwriting really easy, but it's made songwriters very lazy. And it's made the songs more or less sound all the same. And that's what they go on to say in the article. They talk about how today's songwriters and today's record labels are both afraid of being sued. And there are different reasons for that. The younger crowd tends to freak out when they hear like Earth, Wind, and Fire, for an example. Bill Champlin called EWF a force of nature. And he wrote a Grammy award-winning song for them after The Love Is Gone, right? So they hear Earth, Wind, and Fire on the radio, and they're like, holy crap, Batman, my world has changed. I need to pull some snippets out of there and make myself another hit song out of this, because this is just too good to waste, right? Yeah. If you're the guys in EWF, you're probably not going to put up with that. And more, there are songs that, you hear, these newer songs, you walk through the department store and they're playing crap, and you're listening to the crap and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, they just ruined a song I grew up listening to. I'll say that to my wife all the time. It's not just a remake. Like, they pick out lines of it and then they mash it together, and it's horrible. And it lacks creativity. And again, you're probably going to get sued, and the record label as well. They've been reduced to trolling YouTube and TikTok looking for trends rather than trying to develop a new artist. So you've got these people that are all trying to outdo themselves on their Pro Tools and then sending a demo in, and then they may have stolen what they heard from someone else who's also got a demo, and they're trying to send it into the label, and these things collide at the record label at the same time, and then one gets put into their rotation, the other one gets tossed out for probably arbitrary reasoning, and a lawsuit will then, happen because the person who heard that originally or performed it originally, whatever, is now, the owner of that and has a copyright to it. I don't know. The old days, these songs were different because the artists were all trying to outdo each other. They weren't trying to just run to get the money. They were really into the music. And, a giant hook comes on the radio and you're stunned. You're like, how did so-and-so come up with that hook? 8675309. I mean, insane hooks in that song. And you can go down the list of songs where it's instantly recognizable, it's iconic, and has stood the test of time because it was so good. And that's because all of these people were, I listened to Steve Perry talk about how he was basically in competition with people like Jimmy Jamison and Lou Gramm and whoever else, right? Trying to have the best sound and sing the highest notes, and probably won most of those battles, right? Although I'm kind of partial to the late Jimmy J, but in any event, their final bullet point here is an interesting one. It is the increasing number of catalog purchases. Now, that's a good thing in a way, because it helps the artist make a ton of money, right? But it's dumping the catalog out. It's saying, I can't make any more money in today's climate, so I'm going to sell my catalog to BlackRock, Hypnosis, whatever. What's the other one that's out there? Primary Wave. Primary Wave is now going to be marketing all of the Paul Simon music across many different platforms. And, that's kind of like having a record label forever. Now, I don't know if there's like a clause that says after 100 years or 50 years that, hey, or they'll just sell it to somebody else when they're through exposing it to everything that they can, try to get it into movies and commercials, especially those big pharma ads I've been talking about. Look, if I'm an artist and I see the writing on the wall, I don't blame them. It is weird how all of these artists virtue signal about how they want to remove their music from Spotify after they got, a $50 billion payout or something. Doesn't take a lot of guts to do that. Hey, I've already got bags of money here. But, if you're not trying to virtue signal and you're just trying to do business, I understand. Keep in mind, with the catalog purchasing out there, the old music is worth more. And this is why, they're willing to pay so much money for it, because they're going to be using that music for a very long time. But the lump sum is very attractive. They say here their motivations vary. They need the money. They want to do estate planning, tax reasons, a chance to engage in philanthropy or activism. There you go. See? They're making my point, especially about what Neil Young's been up to lately. I want to be involved in activism. I want to tell Spotify to go where. And it doesn't take a lot of courage to do that after you've been paid out. So that's a real interesting issue. The other issue is the availability of the old music. 95 million tracks out there right now, 95 million. So I told the story about all this music that I missed the first time around. That's old. It's not new. It's stuff that came out that hit the discount bin because you can only get so many songs on the radio. And I don't know, excuse me, record labels had issues with certain artists and they want to promote other artists based on image or you know, so-and-so is a friend of the record label. And it becomes one of these games where it's who you know. It's not, you know, how good your song is, it's who you know. In a lot of cases, it was how good the song was, but it's pretty crazy. I have playlists where I have tons of songs that weren't originally on the radio that I can listen to for hours at a time and learn some new material, basically. And it's all older music. So I'm learning new stuff that wasn't around or didn't hit the radio. And this is a thing that's happening because of all of the uploading going on. And older artists are really smart. They record an album, it bombs. They still have the original master tapes and they remaster and then they upload it. And then, you know, if you're a fan of classic rock or yacht rock or whatever genre, see, we're still pigeonholing, but you know, you can hear stuff that you never heard before, and more is coming all the time. And that old music margin is squishing out all of this new music that's really bad to begin with. And you can go back decades. There's stuff from the 60s, the 70s, the early 80s, the 80s in general. They were throwing all kinds of things at the wall, you know, in the 1980s that didn't get on the radio. And then that trend kind of went the other direction after that. So people would rather discover older music that sounds familiar than deal with newer music. And that, again, is pushing new music to the sidelines. So anyway, kind of a long-winded video here, but those are 6 reasons that new music, I think, is in trouble. Not that old music is just dominating and trying to destroy old music. It's just that people do an A-B comparison and they go, okay, I liked A, I didn't like B. I choose A. You know, it's pretty simple. The production value, the quality of the songwriters, the way the songs were put together. I mean, you look through the entire process of recording and you're going to think to yourself, yeah, this is authentic organic food over here. These are artificial flavors, colors, preservatives, and ingredients. I'm going to go with the organic food over there. And people are discovering more of the old organic food that never went to market because the record labels can only do so much. And nowadays, what's happening is people get bored with something, they go searching, they get help from the algorithm. The algorithm can be good or it can be bad, depending on what kind of music you like. So in any event, I think that kind of explains what's going on. If you didn't follow it, I understand. I did upload a video about the Hall of Fame. I'm going to redo that video because I had a couple of the details wrong in that video, and I want to come back and do it the right way. So if you're looking for that video, sorry about that. It will eventually come back and I will redo it and it will be better than the last one. So there you go. All right, people, my voice, I'm starting to lose it. So I'm going to go. Thanks for watching and I will see you soon.